Head on over to our second track now, which the theme is belonging. And we're going to consider how digital can help us to become more present in our cities. As our towns and cities change, how can digital help cultural institutions to become more relevant to their citizens? So in this track, we're going to hear from speakers who are on the front line of creating unique physical and digital experiences. These include organising a flashmob in Stockholm, a festival in Brussels, and an exhibition about the high street in Schiedam. I'm trying to do my Dutch, if you can hear it. Can we please welcome to, oh look, I got a nod, that's fantastic. Okay, can I please welcome to the stage, hang on, I've lost my notes. Merel, come on up. Moa and Azam. We're just gonna bring you all up together because I know there's gonna be a big loud noise now that I didn't know the last time. Can we do our music? Yeah, there we go. Barbara, come on up, I'll do it now. All right, I'm going to do the introductions again properly. I was just scared about that noise coming up for me. So we have Moa Beskow, the ethnologist from Stockholm's länsmuseum, visual and digital storyteller, Azam Masoumzadeh.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'll try it again later. And Merel van der Vaart, city history curator from Stedelijk. Right? And of course, leading this session, we have the wonderful Barbara from the marketing manager of the Azkuna Zentroa. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank to all the organization. Thank you, Dortmund, but also thank you to all the partners of Smart Places. I remember now the first time I met Kurt and Jasmine that come to Bilbao to explain us the project. And I remember also the first time that Britta told me about the storytelling, that it took me a time to understand the concept. And here we are now, 5 years after these first meetings, and it's really amazing to be here. It's a bit sad also, but very happy to be here with all of you. So Azkuna Zentroa is a cultural center belonging to the City Council of Bilbao. And we have quite the commitment to connect society and contemporary culture through our cultural program, but also through its open space. And we also want to connect the different communities in the city, different projects, as for example, the one we met just now, Ethnologist, but around the city of Bilbao with our cultural project. We are a public space that promotes respect for cultural and social diversity, integration, equal opportunities, and access to information and knowledge. A management proposal where people together with their artistic concepts are at the center of everything we do through the 6 lines of programming. Contemporary art, we do exhibitions, but we are not a museum, as we produce its projects and its exhibition with other cultural centers in the country, but also in Europe. As for example, the last exhibition we did in collaboration with the CTKM, one of the partners of Smart Places project. Performing arts, and for example, we have an interesting collaboration with Ethiopia regarding the digital project. Film and audiovisual, society, digital cultures, as for example, one of the projects we did was this digital residence with APAI and different projects in Bilbao, and one of these was Ethnologist. And also many activities regarding literature, as we have a big media library in our center. All of which dialogue among themselves to generate expanded programming in different formats and with people who work in programming, production, and the fusion of their profiles. This is very important because regarding the topic of today, the track 2, which is the belonging. Belonging to a project, belonging to a cultural center, but also belonging to a city and to a public space. So the topic is, how can digital help us to become more present in our cities? As our towns and cities change, how can digital help cultural institutions become more relevant to their citizens? Well, there are different levels, different digital layers that exist in parallel in the public space. The trend is increasingly towards having artistic content in digital format. But I think the huge leap we need to take is to make it outdoor and online. It's true that we have our physical space, our physical cultural place, but what we need is really to connect with the citizens, we connect to the public spaces, and to really do the cultural contact access to everybody. So I can imagine a future where the digital displays you see now in the big cities and big screens have less advertising and more cultural content, promoting the value of education through culture, respect for diversity and positive news, and at the same time encouraging critical thinking and ultimately offering full access to culture and positive news. I think that we really need positive news nowadays. So there are different technological levels operating in parallel in the city and the public space. The layer with the greatest presence now is internet, whose chief advantages are the way it allows for participation and provides real-time information. Another digital layer is the digital displays, facades, and urban installation. Here you have one of the biggest installations in the city, is your big U, and this amazing performance you have here. It is like a big light in the city, and it's really one of the best content in the city. You can see it all over from anywhere, and it is really a very important display in the city of Dortmund. So, for example, these displays are offering contents and taking art outside its traditional venues. This is contributing something to the city and bringing in a new audience that does not usually visit our cultural institutions. This was one of the topic and objective of the smARTplaces project, how we can connect with this digital audience and how we can connect to the citizens and how we can also connect with different communities and also build new communities. No? So I'm very, very happy to share this topic with our speakers. Our speakers, Moa Beskow is ethnologist at Stockholm länsmuseum. Hassan Masoumzadeh, no, sorry. She is a visual and digital storyteller. And Merel van der Vaart, she's a city history curator and at Stedelijk Museum in Schiedam. Yeah, correct? So we are going to start with this track. Thank you.
Yes, nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I've been traveling all the way from Stockholm by train. What I'm going to share with you today is the story about a project we did at my museum, the museum where I work, the Stockholm County Museum. We ended up doing a flash mob at the end of last year. And I'm going to tell you how that happened. I guess you all know what a flash mob is, but I just wanted to make sure. So I checked it up on Wikipedia that states that a flash mob is when a group of people gather at an official place. They do something specific during a short amount of time and then disperse immediately after. So when I learned that, I knew that it was a flash mob we did. First, I'm going to tell you short the kind of 3 steps how we ended up doing this. But first, I just want to share some of my more personal relationship to the digital, because I have felt some kind of frustration at my work, having to deal with those digital tools, because I really do believe in the human meeting, and I have teenagers at home spending time like this. I guess some of you have seen that picture or image at home. So do we really need more screens and more digital things? So that has been kind of a challenge for me. And of course, I think that the digital gives a lot of opportunities to reach out, and it facilitates for people to communicate and to participate. So I can see a lot of good things, of course. So what I'm trying to achieve in my work or at my museum, we have tried to connect those two things. How can we make things happen in the real world where people meet, and how can we connect it with the digital? So, why did we do a flash mob? I have to learn how this works. Yes, there are 3 factors that I'm going to tell, so maybe you get we ended up like this. First, at the Stockholm County Museum, we no longer have a museum building. Since 2018, we are a totally digital museum. We have no facilities, our own facilities for exhibitions. So we spend a lot of time talking about this, what's a digital museum, because every museum almost has a website and digital tools, but we only had that. So we do our mission, the museum's mission, is to work with culture, heritage, art, handicrafts in our region, and we are supposed to use digital tools. So we have ended up so far by making another app, as the former speaker said. We do digital exhibitions for a website. We produce podcasts. We make people upload, the citizens upload their images to our archives. So we do a lot of digital things as a digital museum, but still, where do we meet the people? Where do we make things happen in the real world? That has been our challenge. And as I said, my belief is really that we need to make space for people. And we need, where I work, we really need to find more ways of how we can challenge those things to be out there. The second thing that led us to the flash mob was that we were already working with a project where we we were supposed to collect stories. We work at a project called the Place Workshop, translated then from Swedish. We were about to start working in a place that was a big shopping mall. All the other places we've done the similar project or the same project has been places where people live and feel connected to, my home. Now we were supposed to do this collecting stories at a place where people don't live. The place is mostly famous for its big IKEA mall, and until recently it was the biggest IKEA in the world. And there's a lot of other media market, everything like that. And can you imagine live next door to IKEA? Because the place is going to change to also become a housing area. So we also cooperate with a municipality that really wants us together to create this image of this place. You can live here. The houses are not supposed to be next door, but just in the end of that big shopping mall area. So that was the second thing that led us to this, that we were already working with this project. We wanted to collect stories, but how should we meet the people? People come with a shopping bag or rushing. They don't want to talk to you and they don't feel maybe at home. We didn't know. So how should we meet people? This led us to create something on that place. We wanted to draw attention to this specific place, and we wanted to make something happen. And what do people do there? They go shopping. So we wanted to do something at the shopping mall. And one goal, as I said before, make connections with people, etc. So one goal with the happening was also to get in contact with people and get people engaged in the place. And also, of course, one criterion was that the thing we were supposed to do, we didn't know yet, was supposed to work on social media. It must be something that can capture in picture or in movings. So we ended up, why don't we do a flash mob? And as a former dancer, to me, maybe the step wasn't that huge as it was for my colleagues at the museum, because I knew that you can do things with people in space. So, yeah, bring people together. The first step then, when we decided to do this flash mob thing, was to engage a choreographer, and she had a wide network of contacts, and I knew she would speak for this, and she would find it interesting as well to do something, because it's a challenge to do something in a shopping mall area where people just go shopping, and who would want to participate in this flash mob? But she had a very good contact network, and we also had good connections with the shopping mall management that we got on board, and they was really excited about this happening. So we ended up with 50 participants with diverse ages, backgrounds, and they came from different places around Stockholm. Most of them had never met before. Some of them come from a dancing school that this choreographer was working on, so that was a good way to bring participants. They came to this shopping mall. We had 40 minutes at a gym, learning the steps and moves, and rehearsed with the group. And we all had a great day together, and much laughter and a bit nervous people and so on. But we really felt we did this kind of together. The shopping mall staff, the choreographer, the museum staff, and we got a lot of good contacts with people at the area. And that makes it now easy for us to keep on working with this project where we want to contact people. I will show you a small film of what it looked like, some 30 seconds, so you just get an image of this place and what we did. There are some pictures when they rehearse, and then just very short in the flash mob, and also some pictures. I don't know if this... And yeah.
Non ho mai visto un giorno così.
Non sono mai stata felice così. Sole, 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 vedo dappertutto.
Sole, sole, vedo dappertutto.
Dimmi, dimmi, dimmi cosa mi è accaduto.
Dimmi.
So also some pictures. The choreographer in the middle and one of the participants saying hello. And up to the right there was a very nice couple sitting. This flash mob happened in the middle of the shopping area, where just before Christmas there was a big Christmas tree and a lot of other things happening at the same time. And those people, IKEA had kind of a small exhibition there as well. They show their furniture. And those two men were sitting there during the whole event, flash mob, but lasts for 3-4 minutes. And they were sitting there with their mobile phones like this. So we captured that in the movie. That was. I see this film as a kind of our campfire. We have a Swedish expression of campfire TV. That is when people gather together and watch TV, which not happen that often. So that's a kind of campfire TV. It becomes like a conversation piece that we can use when we go out there later this spring and talk to people. So both in the physical room, it was kind of something different happened in that room. That is mostly a commercial space. So just to finish, so regardless how digital we become and how much time we spend in people's pockets, I mean the museum, the digital museum, we still need places to make things happen in the physical world. That's really my true belief. And the flash mob can be seen as a way of trying that, to meet outside the digital and also to connect those things. So, well, thank you.
Hello, yes. Thank you very much, Moa, and thank you for reminding us the importance of the human contact. Yeah. So now we have Merel. Merel, she's going to explain us about her background and the institution. I'm just going to take my pen. I leave it here.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Merel van der Vaart, and just over a year ago, I was given the great privilege to become City History Curator at the Stedelijk Museum Schiedam, which just means the City Museum of Schiedam. And how can digital help us become more present in our cities? I'm not sure I have any answers for you today, but I do find it a very good question to ask, and I've been asking myself this a lot lately. This is our beautiful building. Last year we were voted the most welcoming museum of the Netherlands. We're very proud of that, of course. But 5 years ago, only 5 years ago, we were on the brink of being shut down, and the local council saved us with just one vote to kind of keep investing in the museum and trusting that we could turn the place around and do something different. So this all happened before I arrived. But I think it's important to tell you a little bit about this background. So 5 years ago, at Stedelijk Museum Schiedam was a contemporary and modern art museum, and we created, or my colleagues created, highly praised contemporary and modern art exhibitions for an elite national audience, but the visitor numbers weren't exactly what we wanted them to be, and we had really lost touch with the local community. And being a city museum, that's quite a kind of significant thing to really get wrong. Now, this is the inside of a beautiful building, which looks a lot more welcoming, I hope, than the outside. Now we are working to become an inclusive museum for art and local history. And we are part of the Off By For All network, founded by Nina Simon, and we aim to be representative of, created by, and working for our local community, while, of course, also growing our national audience. And this feels like being kind of in a permanent split sometimes, but I think we should not underestimate the importance of that national audience for kind of the local economy and tourism as a really important kind of driver for the local economy as well. So that it's not just about visitor numbers, it's also what those national audiences can bring to the city, spending their money there. So a little bit about Schiedam, because I'm assuming most of you have not heard of the city before. It's a city of, or town of roughly 80,000 inhabitants. It's close to Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It's a very segregated city. A third of its inhabitants have what in the Netherlands is referred to as a non-Western bicultural background. And for those under 40, super diversity has become the norm. While at the same time, in the latest elections, the two parties that are known in the Netherlands to have xenophobic and racist messages got 30% of the votes. So you can see that that's really kind of a torn city in that sense. Schiedam has one of the highest levels of poverty in the country, and the literary levels are amongst the lowest. So that's the community or communities we want to be part of and we want to connect with. As part of our efforts to become more of, by, and for the people of Schiedam, we set up a project called Mijn Schiedam, My Schiedam, which is a program specifically dedicated to working with local communities and often on projects initiated by them, not by us. So we hosted an iftar on the request of one of our community partners. And you can see people eating together. We also organized a boxing match. This is our director on the right, punching artist Anna Wenzel. Anna won, and the prize was she will get one of our floors in the museum when she's ready for it to make an exhibition or do something else on that floor. And this is boxing ring in the chapel of the museum. So our director has just about recovered from her injuries, and she spent 8 months training for this. So this was a huge event for her personally and for all the staff kind of supporting her. We also organized a Christmas festival together with local model railway enthusiasts who were so enthusiastic about that experience that they now set up kind of a more permanent project working with young people around model railways and trains. And of course, we're super proud of these achievements and of what we've done. And we feel that during these events, we are becoming kind of physically more welcoming to lots of different people. But of course, the real work ahead of us is to make much more profound changes in who we are as an institution and how we work. And my role in that, looking after our history collections, is really questioning what my role really is as a curator, as a city history curator, and who actually is present in the stories and the histories we tell, and who isn't, and who is present in our collections and who isn't. And we really want to use those collections to, together with the locals, reflect on and take action in our city today by looking at the past. And now we've taken the first steps to kind of do that in our physical space, and we want to do that in the city itself more as well. And we have also started reflecting what that means doing it digitally, because our digital presence is kind of very small for now. Our marketing team run the social media channels. We have a website. Our collection's not online, so we're really kind of at the beginning of that journey in that sense. So just after I started, I was told that my first exhibition would open in July. So I had about 6 months to make an exhibition about the local high street. Any of you who's ever made an exhibition knows that that's not a very long period of time to make an exhibition in, especially if you don't have a network in the city yet. So luckily, the museum was on the local high street, so I could go out, meet lots of shop owners. I went into many of the shops, talk to people, listen to the stories, talk to people who shopped or used to shop at the street to figure out what this exhibition should be about. And with around 6 months to make the exhibition, I had to kind of go for the kind of low-hanging fruit, so people who were very excited to work with us and who were kind of easily kind of brought on board. And there were many of them, and we had a really great kind of buzz going on, and everybody was super excited. But as I was kind of beavering away making this exhibition, I realized something was off, because all the people who we were working with and who had come forward to work with us, who were from the street, were all Dutch white people. And actually the street is much more diverse than that. And I realized that I'd really kind of, made a mistake there, missed the mark in engaging everybody. And what I noticed kind of too late was that in some instances, although people they speak Dutch and they communicate in Dutch, for them to really kind of tell their story or be really kind of open and talk easily, it will really help them to have a translator there. And that was something we'd never done as a museum before. We hadn't budgeted for, we didn't know where to find people who could kind of interpret for us. So I think that's something that really kind of woke me up to, this is something we have to plan ahead for, and we really have to think about, like, how are we going to communicate with people? Not everybody communicates in the same way that we communicate, and sometimes having an interpreter is just really necessary for people to talk freely and to feel that they don't have to fear being misunderstood, and they can just talk and the interpreter will translate what they're saying. And that's one of the things I've been really kind of thinking about as well when it comes to digital. We have to work across languages, and we have to also work across kind of digital ways of communications or different kind of cultural ways of communicating with each other that I don't know and that I don't understand. And almost all my colleagues have kind of the same cultural background as I have, so that's not very helpful. We're working on that as well. What does that mean when we take this online and when we look about how we communicate digitally and the language we use and who is actually being communicated to, in a sense? We can feel that we're talking to everybody, but maybe we're not. And working in different languages can help us, but I'm not sure how yet to do that kind of permanently in the physical space, but also digitally. And there's a bit of a fear as well of, like, we shouldn't assume that people can't speak Dutch because it might be condescending, and that then is a reason to not provide other languages other than English, because everything is kind of in Dutch and English in the museum. So that's also something I think we internally have to grapple with. So once the exhibition opened, this is all of the opening night, and you will notice there's an abundance of white people also in these pictures. What I noticed was that people were meeting each other. They were meeting each other on gallery. What was really interesting is that our on-gallery guides, who are trained to kind of facilitate conversations around art, because we've been an art museum for so long, all of a sudden got a very different role. On the one hand, most of our guides are locals, so they shared the same histories as the people, or the same memories as the people who attended, which really changed their role and the way they talked with people. But they were also kind of mediators in this process of kind of making sense of the street and understanding its history, but also kind of aligning your own memories to different narratives that you would hopefully see in the exhibition. And also people would just gather on gallery. It was really kind of different from what we used to. We're used to people being quite solitary in the exhibition, or maybe kind of duos and just looking at the art and pointing at the art and kind of being all engaged, or seeming all engaged. And here people would sometimes like huddle in the middle of the space, and multiple people who were not visiting together would huddle together, and maybe something they'd seen had triggered a memory that had then triggered a conversation, but they weren't looking at an object and talking. They were actually kind of huddling in the space, which I thought was very interesting. And again, it made me wonder, like, how can we facilitate these connections and these meetings more actively? Because now it kind of happened. I was hoping it would happen, but we hadn't super planned for it to happen. And before the exhibition opened, we put out kind of requests for people to share their stories, to share their objects, and very little things came through. But as soon as the exhibition opened and people saw it, and we put, you can't see it in this picture, these are actually people who contributed to the exhibition later. They're related to the people from the 19th century picture above them. We had left blank spaces in the exhibition saying, like, is your contribution going to be here? And that was a bit scary to do because we didn't know if those would still be blank spaces at the end of the exhibition or not. They were not, because it turned out that when the exhibition opened, it triggered so much with people, and everybody came like with their personal photo albums or with objects. These people still had the shop bell and the cake box from that 19th century shop in their family home. So it was incredible because they hadn't been bakers for like 2 or 3 generations, but they still held on to those objects. So we managed, just 2 weeks before the exhibition closed, we managed to make a big kind of changeover. We added a lot of pictures from people's personal albums. We added a lot of objects. We removed some of our own objects from gallery because those were the easiest objects to just take out. We only had to kind of explain that to ourselves. So we took out our own stuff, put more stuff of other people in. And it really showed me that you need to show something for people to kind of feel they can contribute. So you kind of have to, you can't just start with nothing and ask like, hey, give us things or stories. You have to really kind of model that in a sense, but that can also mean you kind of exclude people through the model you provide. So that's tricky as well. And what we noticed is, so on the one hand, what I'm really proud of is that we collaborated with the municipal archive, and everybody who contributed photographs from personal albums, we asked them, can these pictures, when we digitize them, become part of the online image bank of the municipal archives? Because they don't have personal pictures like that very often. It's often made by professional photographers when there's a special event, and here these were just day-to-day kind of very personal images, and everybody agreed to that. So I'm very proud that now those images are available online for everybody. And it didn't end kind of with the exhibition closing, which is often a problem. But we didn't do the same thing with the objects, and they also held a lot of interesting stories, and we could have taken pictures and thought about how we would kind of keep those stories and pictures of those objects and maybe share them online or do more work around them kind of in the digital realm. We also had what we called our story wall. And there's something really scary about putting up this wall saying, give us your stories, with lots of little nails that people can hang things on, their stories on, and it's empty when the exhibition opens. Like we put up 2 of our own memories, and you're kind of like, oh my God, it's going to be empty at the end of the exhibition, or is it actually going to be something there? And we were inundated with stories, which was really, really lovely. Some of them were really kind of simple, like, I was chased down the street by an angry seagull once, and some of them were kind of a bit more profound about memories or kind of shopping on the street. We asked people for their contact details so we could get back in touch with them, but not a lot of people gave their details, and we really want to further share these stories because they're beautiful, and most of them are anonymous enough that you wouldn't know who posted it, even though it's a personal story. But now we're kind of struggling to figure out how we can maybe share this online, or if we can share it online, and how we can reach out to people to get permission. Also, just on communication, what I noticed was that I've started getting really kind of relying on emails, but that's not enough. You have to really kind of get out there, meet people, but also, no, not yet. That's okay. You have to meet people, but also I started communicating with some people through WhatsApp. I started communicating with some shop owners through Instagram direct messages because that was the easiest way to get in touch with them. So you really have to kind of rethink how you use those mediums as well and how you kind of communicate with people. And what that means also, what Shana said with boundaries and kind of using your personal Instagram account to communicate with shop owners. So just to sum up, and I realize these are very kind of museum-y basic questions in a sense, because that's where we're at the moment, and I hope in a couple of years' time we have much more kind of profound questions to ask. But does digital allow room for multi-language and culturally diverse communication in a way that we were not facilitating on gallery, and does it allow us to kind of bridge that? And how can we gather, meet, and share online? And I don't mean how can we get people to come to our platforms or to our website, but how can we be where they are? And how can we meet people where they are, both physically, but also digitally? What does that mean? And how can we blend online and on-site more, both when it comes to collecting stories, for example, or telling stories, reusing content? I really believe that kind of the immense amount of research. Like, you used to have an exhibition and a catalogue, and then the catalogue was kind of like the more physical, durable result of the exhibition that would enter again. We don't make catalogues, but we do a lot of research. We meet a lot of people. We gather so many beautiful stories. Also, long after the exhibition closes, the opening of the exhibition is not the end of the project. It's just like an important milestone, and then there's so much after that, and there's so much before that, and how can we make that more sustainable in a sense, and provide that to others and share it in a more sustainable way? And how can we meet people where they are, like I already said, and how should exhibition processes change? And I just mean the really kind of basic object comes in, loan form is signed, we put it in a display case, people come collect it again. How can we change that to facilitate creating online content around, for example, those loans? So getting permission to take pictures, gathering stories, sharing these stories online. Can we make it part of our kind of online database that we're trying to create and that we're thinking about? So it's kind of rethinking the basic stuff we do to really make it different, but also more fundamental questions of what it is we're actually doing at the same time. So thank you.
Thank you, Merel. I think it's so important what you said about an exhibition is not just a period of time, but it's longer than that, and all the relationship that is built around an exhibition, and also how an exhibition hall can also be a public space, and where people are meeting and just and building new communities. So thank you very much. And now we have Azam. Sorry, but I'm not going to repeat your. And please tell us about you, because I just met you yesterday night. And you are a young illustrator and a young artist regarding also comic and a storyteller also, and with an impressive background, I have to say. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Well, I am visual artist and digital storyteller, and I work on my personal projects. I collaborate with other artists and institute, but as I'm cultural institute, but as I'm not a permanent member of any institute, my speech sometimes are a lot about me. So sorry for seeing me here and my picture there twice. So that's a bit maybe too much. But and later I'm gonna make it less about me and more about others. So that's good. So I would like to talk about a project. How does these things work? Yeah. Talk about a project that I did in collaboration with a cultural institute in Brussels, that they organized a festival that is called Bewogen, and it's 2 years in a row that they invite me to do something. And their aim is to connect new and old Bruxellois. And by new, they mean immigrants and refugees, and by old, they mean people of Brussels that I think they always gonna stay new. Nobody gonna get old citizen in Brussels, because it's just a multicultural city with lots of confusion, 2 languages. It's just impossible to get old there. Like every day you learn something, there is something that adds to the city, gets away from the city. It's a big chaotic situation that everybody suffer, but everybody also enjoy, because it's just nobody feels like home and everybody feels like home. So that's a perfect place for people like me. I mean, immigrants enjoy themselves because nobody is really, I'm gonna repeat myself, it's a perfect place to be. But refugees are people who are like coming from a region, like coming from Middle East, having no clue, like passing through all these adventure and misfortunes and miseries. It can get overwhelmed in Brussels, so they invite me, which I think I'm a perfect person, because I know the vulnerability and difficulty, but I'm not that vulnerable and suffered because I went to Brussels as a student, but I'm also from Middle East, so that's I think that's why they invite me. Sorry. So what I wanted to talk about refugee crisis and like the difficulty of living in Brussels, but I'm somehow tired of all these same way of narrating stories about them, and I just don't like that they sometimes we made let's just have mint tea and like celebrate being from like there and like you're welcome. I just don't like that. I think we should talk about the difficulties they have, but also like they somehow cannot find a place where they talk about difficulties, but just make it a bit like narrating it differently. So I don't say that is the smartest way, but that's how I narrate the story. So I created the online, Instagram account, and I called it Homesick Vegetable, Fruits and Vegetables, and that's where we talk about fruits and vegetables that have been displaced all around the world, and they are not originally from the place they are. So nobody knows nobody buys them, first of all, because they don't know how to cook it, how does it taste. They don't know about their nutrition values, so they are just there, nobody appreciating them. And 8 weeks before the festival, each week I uploaded GIF about vegetable. It's not vegetable, it's me. The first week it was about like a little GIF about me, and then each week after that a story about a vegetable. So I said like, hi, my name is Azam, I'm from Isfahan, and I live in Brussels, and I'm a vegetable activist. And then like, what? A vegetable activist? And this, yes, if you want to know more about it, come to the Bewogen Festival. And then each week I uploaded a vegetable, and the story behind it. So this is about the broccolis that got to US in 1920. And dear Italians, they made this movement, but Americans were not like, what is this? Not appreciating it. And then they kept adding sugar to it to make it American. So that was about the broccoli. And then I made this, looks miserable, I'm sorry. This tomato that says, I'm actually a berry type fruit, but nobody knows. And I can totally relate to that, because when I say Iran, I'm from Iran, there's like Iraq, and I'm like the Iran. I was like Iraq, and I was like no at the end. And then they are like, so the war is over there. And I'm like, yeah, we are in middle of lots of shit, but war is over like quite some times ago, like it's over. So nobody, and then they ask me, so you speak Arabic? And I'm like, I wish, but no, I speak Farsi. So that's the thing that now makes me laugh. But if you're like different, like you have different personality and you care about, I really don't care that they think I speak Arabic, but these are the things that if it gets repeated over years and years, that can get a bit tiring, but no, I'm used to it. But anyways, I want to say that I know the difficulty. And then I also made this one about yam, which is like African roots. And I was also like, let's talk about those immigrants and refugees or like newcomers, that they really don't care about the background. And I know I have people that are like, the past is past. Refugees that they just like, it's over and we just want to get integrated. And we just want to be part of the city and not talk about the difficulty we had on our way getting to Brussels, Belgium. So I was like, yeah, this yam just doesn't care. I'm just like, I just want to be part of a new community, and that's it. Like, leave me alone. So that was, sorry. And then the actual event actually came. So I had a table, and I had pictures of all homesick vegetables on the table with little papers, and I wrote down on a piece of paper, here we talk about homesick vegetables. And then there was, to my surprise, this long queue of people wanting to talk actually about homesick vegetables. So they would come to me, and I would draw them homesick vegetables of their favorite, like the one that they wanted, and we would talk about it, and it was just amazing. So this, it was just cool to have people coming to me to talk about homesick vegetables. And we always, like, whether we're getting into the question of situation of refugees or immigrants in Brussels or not, but I think even if we would not get to this discussion, they would probably think about it later, if they would think, actually. But, like, yeah, so, they were my perfect audiences, so they were a couple, and this woman was very nervous and anxious about the situation of vegetables. And then the husband was from countryside, and she was from city. And the husband said, "Yeah, I always, when I was a kid, my bringing up, I would pick vegetables myself, so I know like vegetables can also look weird and ugly." And then she said, "No, I'm from a city. I always had like perfect vegetables, looking good." So it was a funny conversation with them, and then we got to nutrition values of vegetables and and the end we actually got into refugee crisis and immigration crisis at some point. And then here is me, and it was cool because someone contacted me on Instagram and told me, "Hey, can I have a homesick paprika with a personal story based on it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we met in a cafe, and I did not know this girl, and she didn't know me. So we had this talk about homesick paprika and the personal story of homesick paprika, and then we said goodbye, and that was it. And I think that was amazing human interaction over a homesick paprika. And then I'm sorry I say I, because this is how it is. I'm single. I mean, I'm an independent. I'm not promoting myself, but I'm a single institute that I meant. So I like to keep things simple, easy, and honest. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much to all three speakers. Barbara, I'll hand it over to you now while I have a quick look and see if you guys have left any comments for us on Minty. Bum, sorry. You heard me the whole time, right? No, I'm loud enough. Good. Go ahead.
Thank you, Azam. I think it was a big surprise for all of us, isn't it? We learn a lot about the importance of the past diversity and be open to everything. So thank you very much. And just coming back to the first question, I would like to ask you the importance of, we have been talking about the digital places, exhibition museum places, but also diversity and other stories and imaginary, let's say. But the importance also about the human contact, on the open spaces. You met people with connecting people with other places, but how we can also connect people, and you say also the importance of, for example, the flash mob. After the flash mob, did you continue having the contact with this, you built already a community with this flash mob, with these people?
Yes, we are about to start up this again, really, after we did this just before Christmas. So we have a lot of contacts and people to connect to. And as I said before about the municipality that we work together with, and about storytelling, they like to put up the stories we're about to connect at the bus stops, commercial places. They want to build those stories at the space. But the contact with the people, we have contact one by one. I mean, one person said, "I want to continue be a part of this," but I still think we have some work to do to really keep that group forward.
Okay, congratulations for the project, really. And also, I would like to ask you, Merel, congratulations about this exhibition done in 6 months, really amazing. Bravo. How did you get this capacity also to adapt some of part of the exhibition to what was taking place during the exhibition? This is really not very common for a curator.
No, yeah. Well, I had two major benefits, I guess. One was that the museum hadn't really made a kind of more research-based history exhibition for as long as anybody could remember. So there was no, this is how we do things here. There was, this is how we do art exhibitions, and everything else we're open to anything. So that was good. Second, I think, was that I had just become a curator. So I was not stuck necessarily of this is how I always make exhibitions. I knew that I wanted it to be as open and collaborative as possible, and I had to really scale back on how open and collaborative it was because of the time pressure and just the fact that we're a very small team. And so getting all these people to bring their objects in. I mean, we anticipated it in the sense that we left the blank spaces, and I knew like we might have to empty out display cases on a Monday and just do this massive closed on Monday. So to have this rehang and on a Monday, and it was only 2 weeks before we closed, and that was, I was really disappointed about in myself for not planning ahead, because we were really working towards the opening. And that was the beginning of summer, and then everybody went on holiday and kind of collapsed. And then we had to really rush to do it. But I'm also really proud that we did do it. And for those last 2 weeks, and we saw a lot of repeat visits those last 2 weeks of people who had brought their stuff, and also people who were already part of the exhibition before. Like one woman told me she visited the museum 5 times with different friends and relatives and people from out of town to show them, like, look, this is where I'm from, and this is the shop my family used to have. But I really learned now, like I said, like we're used to planning towards the opening of an exhibition, both when it comes to like time, people's time, like so what are people working on? We had a temporary project manager, a freelancer, whose contract ended kind of not long after the exhibition opened. So then that's already a challenge. But also budget. You usually budget for the budget to be gone at the moment the exhibition opens. It's like, no, we need to keep some budget. I don't care where we have to kind of save on to have a decent chunk of budget left to do this rehang, because we know we want to add stuff, and we know we've got printing cost, and we know we've got object handler cost, and please let's calculate this in, but we could do a lot better in seeing it as a much longer project where the opening is a very important milestone, and then there are many more milestones to come.
And also something very interesting regarding the 3 different projects is in each one of you have built such a strong engagement, no? And also not always, especially on a public space, but because also a commercial space is not very common for cultural space, you know, to be in this kind of space. But it's also the way of meeting people and to connect people. So we needed to get out all the barriers, and I think it's very clever just to do this intervention there. But how about the real the markets, the streets, the city? No, how we can also connect through digital in this public space. I think that's, I can really imagine a flash mob in streets. For example, in Azkuna, Zentroa, we, before the opening of our space, we did also a flash mob when nobody knows nothing about our center, but we did an open call, and it works very well in the street, in a train station. We did a flash mob there, and all these people were the first one to get at Federica's card, and it was very important to realize regarding the importance of the engagements. The citizens are looking forward to be engaged. They need to be engaged in their community. So this, for example, your project, I think, is really surprising how can really vegetables get this and all these stories and to fight for their for their identity, really. So what can you tell us about this, the importance of the identity in really to be told, and it was really impressive for me. Right? Thanks.
Well, I would like to give another example of a digital project that I found it brilliant. There is this app designed, the concept and design is from Darius de Porter, if I'm pronouncing his name rightly. He is a digital artist, and he has made this app which is called Die With Me, and it only works when you have 5% of charge on your phone. And when you have only 5%, you can get into this app, and you can only meet people who also have 5% charge. So I found it brilliant, because that's like, you have only 5% to get her number, and that is let's show what you do, and then because it's just, and then you, I mean, it's like it's brilliant, and it also somehow criticizes the way digital has made us interact with each other, because, well, it's like somehow like talking about Tinder, which is a digital way of interacting with citizens, but then if Tinder was not there, people would just like interact like normal people, you know? And then Tinder comes to help, and I'm like, what are you doing in between? Like, if you were not there, we would just talk in the bar, you know? But so I like to also question how, I mean, I like the a critical approach towards how digital actually can make a wall between us and others. Yeah.
I think that's a lovely point as well. I think something that brought all of your talks together is you all talked about gatherings in these places. You were sitting at a table illustrating with people at Azam, and we talked about this lovely new phrase that I will definitely use again, campfire TV. Mo, I thought was lovely. And you were talking about huddles as well. So I think it's very important to think about how we bring people together and not have technology as a barrier between us. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. We're going to flick back onto the graphic recording for a second, because in the interest of speeding along time, I'd like to come back to that beautiful, beautiful summary that we've got here. So tying everything together, I think it's wonderful. Do we need more screens? 5% up, brilliantly. Lovely. We are out of time there. I would just like to go through some operational things before we jump into our well-deserved coffee break. Thank you very much to this group of ladies, first of all.